Well, greetings to you, Pastor, hailing from the wonderful city of New Haven. Always great to see you, Pastor. And what I will add to that conversation is I can't speak for the BPRC members, but I will speak for this member. And you said something. You said, for those that don't have a backbone, and it kind of struck a chord with me, and I'll tell you why. Because sometimes it's not because of a lack of a backbone, because that I have. But I did have a lack of education, right? And I had priorities, and this wasn't at the top of my list. And we have lobbyists in the building, and a lot of us depend on them to educate us, right? So that's where the education was coming from, and it was very one-sided. And my concentration was mainly with criminal justice, juvenile justice, education, ironically, right? Education. But that's what I will say. When you know better, you do better. And changing your mind is not a sign of weakness. It is actually a sign of meekness, which is strength under control, right? So I stand on that because I was questioned and spoken to in a way that was quite, in my opinion, abrasive by a woman of the cloth. And I was scolded because it was believed that I was pro-choice. And I said, well, obviously, I'm the one confused about what pro-choice means. Because it was my understanding that pro-choice meant the individual had a choice. You can choose termination, you can choose life. The choice is yours. That was my understanding around pro-choice. But as this conversation continued to grow, and as a certain representative seated to my right entered the building, right? The things that were said and done without even knowing her as a person to obstruct her. And being done by people that were smiling in her face and pretending to support her, right? So I took it on as my obligation, not a golden opportunity, but a golden obligation to make sure that she was covered, to make sure that I stood in the gap, right? And we don't agree on every single thing. I don't know anyone that does. But the one thing that I do agree on, touch not my anointed, do my prophet no harm. Because only God knows the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So let's stand on that. And what I would love to see in our communities is that collective, that we can be respected and respectful of those that have different opinions than we do and different beliefs than we do. But the love is unconditional. It's agape. My love is not conditioned. It's not predicated on how you make me feel, how you speak to me, how you treat me. You can't take this love because you didn't give it to me. This is the love of God, which covers all, right? Even when you treating me wrong, I'm going to love you anyway. Might not like what you're doing, but I'm going to love you, which means to me that I will do you no harm. So that's what I wanted to say around your comment about, you know, certain people in the building and not having a backbone, and that's my story. I'm speaking for Representative Porter. And one thing that I said to Rep. McGee in conversation, she actually stated it earlier. I watched as women that don't look like me stood on the floor and testified about this when they were voting to affirm this policy. We don't wear abortion as a badge of honor. We don't do it for the same reasons other women do it. And this is what has been so offensive to me in this building. Appropriating and wearing these buttons that say stand with black women, but when black women stand, you ghost, you gone. Can't find you, can't see you, can't talk to you, you don't want to hear it. You stand with us when we are in agreement with you. But the true test of standing with us is standing with us in our lived experience. Standing with us as we tell our stories. We are reclaiming our voice. We are reclaiming our narrative. This is our story. This is our lived experience, and you don't get to tell it. And there comes a time when you need to know when to fall back, because they are so afraid of, women that look like us leading, when the truth of the matter is we've led always, always. Every movement, everything that has ever been birthed has been birthed out of the wombs of women of color. And that's the truth. And I think that's what we have to get back to the truth. Representative Nolan asked a question about, what can we do? What are the other options? And Annabelle touched on it a little bit, Representative Figueroa. And the thing that I wanted to add to that is mentorship is very important. We can't be what we can't see. We learn through modeling. It is so important that our children have good mentors in their lives. And I'm talking about folks that don't live in the household. But then when we talk about the people that do live in the household, I believe that there has to be open communication and no condemnation. That children should be able to come to their parents or their caregivers and have conversations that they are quite afraid to have, knowing that no matter what comes from that conversation, they are going to be loved. That love will cover it all. I think that's so important. And Representative Gonzalez, she talked about something that was really important, and I harp on this all the time in my community. And I have to say, Representative McGee, for most people it is a thankless job, but I have to give the 94th District mad props. She says say 116 too, y'all. I can't tell you how much thanks and gratitude I get from my community, from my constituents. As a matter of fact, from around the state, if I'm going to be honest, I have people that reach out to me that aren't even from my district, that appreciate the work that I do in this building. And God knows what you need when you need it. And we all need to be encouraged. And that's what the constituency, that's what the voters, even those that are not voting, when they reach out and they affirm us in that way and support us, it gives us the strength we need to go on, because this work is exhausted. It is brutal. It can kill you. And I had a health scare last year. And it really did bring things back into focus for me. And we really have to focus on the people. We, the people. The people have the ultimate power. Representative Gonzalez said it, the power to seat and unseat. You don't get no more powerful than that in this building. So we need to pay attention to what's going on in this building. And the other thing that really drew me to this particular conversation was the work that I do around champion Black maternal health, Black maternal and infant mortality. And what has confused me beyond belief is that we are pushing so hard year after year. We haven't given it a rest, right? Now we're looking at SJ4 after what we looked at a couple of years ago. Where is the push for Black maternal and infant mortality policies that will ensure that we are living in full joy when we choose to bring forth life, when we choose to be mothers, when we choose to have families? Where is that support? Black maternal health is not just a woman issue. It's an infant issue. It's a father issue. It's a partner issue. It's a family issue. It's a community issue. And this is the people's building. So it's an issue here. I want to see more work being done around that, more support being given towards that. And I just want to kind of bring into perspective this Black maternal piece of this. When we talk about the Black and Latinas that are choosing to have families but are dying, right? The U.S. has the highest rate of maternal mortality of any developed country. And it disproportionately impacts women of color, specifically Black women. And this rate is rising. And according to the CDC, it is more than 80% preventable, which makes it a flagrantly despicable. We talked about something a little earlier and Rep. McGee said something around we're doing better than our grandmothers did. Well, I'll tell you an interesting stat I found. The stat said that my daughter, who is age 30, is 50% more likely to die from maternal complications than her grandmother, my mother, was almost 6 decades ago when she gave birth to me. You tell me how far we've come. Let that resonate. I just need for us to put, there's so many intersections to this. So many intersections. And if we're talking equity for real, then we need equity across the board. And we need to make sure that the resources and the supports are in place to support what we are here to do. Midwives and doulas, they increase maternal care and birthing outcomes. Having a doctor that looks like you in labor and delivery increases an infant's mortality rate by 50%. So all of these things are, they're critically important. And I just want to make sure that as we discuss this topic, that we understand the intersections and the injustices that are happening in spaces where women that look like us should be safe. It's saddening and it's maddening. You can be extremely well educated, you can be wealthy, you can be a world-renowned recording artist, you can be a GOAT U.S. tennis player or an Olympic gold medal winner, and nothing will spare you if you are a woman of color expecting a baby. So I wanted to make sure that we brought that to our attention. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Representative McGee, but I really do want to thank you all for coming out today, for hearing from us why we're here and why this is important and why we feel education is the key. And you can't make an informed decision without having full disclosure. Let's talk about the other side of this coin.